Hello friends and welcome to the next video. In this video we're going to be checking out the songo. 1, 2. Songo is one of the most abused, misinterpreted grooves that is out there in the Afro-Cuban world. I think when something becomes really popular and many people try to do it, it gets butchered like anything that becomes popular. There's a great saying, the popularity is but the mere crumbs of greatness, right? I guess that it's important to know where to look for the right information. So, as we all know, Changuito came up with this groove. If you don't know who Changuito is, check him out on Google, whatever. One of my favorite Afro-Cuban drummers. And yeah, I mean, there's plenty of guys that know like the history and Changuito and this, but when they go to play it, they just butcher the thing. It's real easy to know the history. To play it is another story, right? You just repeat things you see on wherever, but to play it is another story. So I was at a clinic of Changuito's when he came to PIT, actually. I was teaching there, and Changuito came that day, and we were all like, oh my God, Changuito's coming. It's going to be amazing, man, amazing. We can't wait for the clinic. And when he got there, it was a packed house, I mean, beyond belief. And every drummer in town was there to see the clinic. And it was absolutely fantastic. So when he showed this is basically what he did. Okay, he called somebody up to play it and he taught step by step the songo. I mean, there's plenty of videos here on YouTube where you can see him explaining it. But, well, just for sake of having it here, this is what he did. Okay? And then he said there was a second movement to it, which is this. Okay? So you can see him explaining his original groove online. You can go to Hudson Music and buy the videos and all that stuff. So I don't want to repeat what he says. But the interesting point is how to apply this in jazz. Now, the biggest hurdle that people have is just thinking like a Western player when you try to do any type of Latin grooves. Anything that involves a lot of improvisation, it's not about the patterns. Okay, you have to know about rhythm and how to apply rhythm into the patterns and make them come alive. You're playing in an Afro-Cuban ensemble, you don't play that over and over. That's just like one thing, I mean, watch all the cats how they do it, and they're not just repeating it, it's like 4 on the floor and 2 bears. It's not the same thing. So in order to make it work, especially in Latin jazz, you have to have a slew of knowledge that we've been talking about here on the channel all the time. And one of the first things you have to know is the connection between 6/8 and Afro-Cuban music. Now, we've talked about that a lot too in my system, RTS, and I'm just going to go over it for you one more time and give you a little trick, okay? It's not a trick, it's something you do to learn, actually. So, if you take the basic Afro-Cuban pattern, right, a real basic one, 1 E and 1 E and 1 E and right? You have to realize the original roots of this music comes from 6/8, okay? All the vocabulary, let's say, comes from 6/8, from African music. So, with your hands, okay, you're going to play 6. You're just going to do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. okay? With the bass drum, you're going to play on 3 and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? Now put the hands and the bass drum together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? If you want to put the hi-hat in there, you know, it depends whether you want to put it on the downbeat or the way Changuito did it at the clinic. If you're doing it in 6, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? On 2 and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So all together, it's going to sound like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so that is going to give you access to all the vocabulary of 6/8, and you'll be able to bring it into this style. Okay, now I'm just going to play some examples of 6/8 vocabulary. Okay, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so all that stuff you can study on the lesson site, all right? It's a massive, massive study, all the things you need to do to get that vocabulary. So now, when you're putting the songo idea, concept, groove into this, this is what you do, okay? You're gonna have a mixture of those things of in 2 and in 6, all right? So we have the basic pattern, right? I'm gonna play it on the snare this time. 1, 2, 1, 2. All right. Now, notice that the bass drum, you take out the second beat, okay, on 1 E and da, 2 E and da. You don't play the second time on the and, just the first one. It sounds much hipper. It's a much hipper way to play. And then you could improvise with the left hand. That's where all your 6 and 8 knowledge comes in, and all your knowledge of groups of 5, 7, 9, whatever, that's going to come in there, okay? And you can also apply that to the bass drum, not only the left hand. So I'm just going to give you a real brief example of that. 1, 2. All right, the left hand should be able to flow with all that vocabulary, and the finishing touch for jazz is when you take it over to the ride, okay? A lot of the times, the bell, unless you're playing with a real ensemble, Latin, Afro-Cuban jazz ensemble, it's gonna sound pretty intrusive, you know? So it's kind of, you know, all been transferred to the ride in a more jazz setting. So this is what that would sound like. With the bass drum now being free as well, not sticking to that pattern so much. Also, what I'm going to do is play more New York style and play it 1 on the downbeats, okay, on the hi-hat. So 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, that's just a small example of so many things that you can do. And it's so freeing hear it that way, you know, instead of the patterns way that people, you know, with no experience are trying to show you on YouTube. All right. So it's important to get to know what the pros know. Like I always say, you know what the pros know, because those are the cats that have been around, that have been playing the stuff, that actually work and do these gigs, and they're gonna know what you need to know, okay? Again, it's not about patterns, man. You got to know about rhythm and the music. You got to immerse yourself in the music and know all the vocabulary that's underneath there in order to be able to play it. If you just play a pattern, you're never going to cut it in the real world, okay? So I'm just going to play a little more for you. Let's see, faster is interesting too. A lot of people, you know, they want to play a song, go fast, and they just do the pattern over and over and over as fast as they can. It's nowheresville, okay? So a little faster, it's just going to sound like this. 1, 2, 1, 2. All right. So I hope you enjoyed this clip. Playing jazz, playing all this type of music that requires a lot of drumming knowledge, requires you to base your vocabulary on rhythmic knowledge, not knowledge of beats, okay? It's very important to come to that realization. And if you want to learn more, please check out my lesson site. It's all there for you, and with me for full support on video, on WhatsApp, email, everything you need. And of course, I'll hope to see you there. I'm just going to play you out a little bit here. All right. 1, 2, 1, 2.